G'day, Chief. Welcome to the Inner Chief podcast and our new series on how to think like a CEO. We're going to start off out of the blocks with one of the most important topics in business: how to build a personal brand. Let's just think for a minute before we get started. What on earth is personal brand? Why is it so important? What are some of the pitfalls that we can so easily make, unwittingly, unknowingly, right? I want to start with a bit of a story. We actually had on the podcast quite a long time ago, Sterling Mortlock, who was the former captain of the Australian rugby team, the Wallabies. And he said when he was a young guy coming up through the ranks playing for the ACT Brumbies, he was at training one day, and Sterlo's a really energetic guy. Like, he's a really enigmatic character. And he would lift the whole team, even as a young guy in his early 20s. And one day he got to training and he was just flat, just didn't have the energy. And George Gregan, who at that time was the Wallaby captain and the Brumbies captain, came over to him and he said, "Hey, Sterling, what's going on, mate? Are you all right?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just really tired. I'm just really flat today." And Gregan said to him, "Hey, mate, that's all good and well, but everyone's watching and the whole team is flat out here because you don't have the energy level." And what Sterlo worked out or realized was that people were always watching. You are always on show. Every single time you turn on a Zoom, every single time you walk into a meeting room, every single time you pop an email. You know what happens when you get an email from someone you like or don't like. You read it with a filter. And this is what a personal brand can do, for either good or for bad. It means that people have a filter and a bias for, against, or indifferent about you. I love the saying, and it's been mentioned a few times by CEOs on our podcast: your reputation enters the room before you do. Think about what it's like waiting for someone else to walk into a meeting room. You already have thoughts, "Oh, here they come." "Oh, yes, here they come." Like, there's always something there in your mind about that person. I love the Warren Buffett saying, it can take 20 years to build a reputation and 20 seconds to ruin it. So a positive brand can mean opportunities. It can mean ease, like a lack of resistance when you're trying to get results. It can mean a lot of fun, and it can actually mean health. It can mean more wealth for you, as you probably get promoted faster. A good positive brand has an endless list of positive outcomes for you and your family, right? On the other hand, a negative brand, right, we know what that means. It can mean toxic life at work. It can mean resistance. It can mean stress, emails all time of the day or night, events out of your control, promotions or moves or shifts or projects being deprioritized. All these things can happen if you've got that negative personal brand. I want to take you back to one of two or three of the key principles we talk about in the book Chief Maker. All right, this book's been out quite a long time now, and the stuff in it is still really relevant. Early in the book, we talk about that as a leader, as an executive, you are a professional services firm of one. Think about it for a minute. When you go to the market for a candidate to come and fill a role in the business, you have a job that needs doing. Now, you could outsource that to a company, or you could say, "You know what? I'm going to get someone to come and do that as a service to this business and to our team." So that person, even though they're on a full-time wage, is like a professional services firm of one. And when you go and work with any professional services firm, be it accountants, lawyers, coders, anything that's out there in the world these days, you go to one that hopefully you know and you like and you trust. And so as an individual, if you want someone else to keep selecting you to play big roles and to get things done, you have to have a good reputation as a professional services firm of one. So that's a really important thing. View yourself as that, and everyone you meet in your team, your peers, your boss, they're your customer, right? You go the extra mile to do a fantastic job. And that doesn't mean slaving and doing all the stuff that maybe they should be doing. It might well mean helping them or holding them accountable, giving them feedback or helping them to do their job better. That is actually what a great chief will do in that moment. And that actually builds a better reputation than not helping that person achieve at work. So that's number one, you're a professional services firm of one. Number two, recently I did a webinar with Daniel Hunter, who's the CEO of Business New South Wales. And Dan reminded us all on this webinar that your number one team is the top team you're in. So if you're on the executive team and you're the general counsel, your number one team is not the legal team, it's the exec team. If you're in sales and you're the area manager for maybe Sydney or New South Wales, your top team is not New South Wales, Sydney, it's national sales team. That is us working up at level and building our personal brand and saying, hey, the results of the top team are more important than the results of mine. And if we're going to build a track record, it has to be built together. Track records are never built on your own. And if they are, I guarantee you, there's a flow-on effect of negative consequences later. And this is the thing, Chief. You make a little move one day, you have no idea that it might come back and hit you 2-3 years later. When you're not in the room and someone who you accidentally wronged, or you're going for a job 3 years later, and you don't realize that one of the people on that panel or as a decision maker or future peer is someone who you just did something a couple of years ago and they weren't impressed. And it might not mean that you weren't you didn't behave well. It might mean that you were unreliable or you didn't do a good job. You didn't finish the work well. It wasn't quality. So you're always thinking, Chief, you are always on show. And reputation is always going up or it's always going down. The next one is about conflict. I touched on this before. Antonia Mercarelli, CEO of the REIQ. Fascinating interview that we had with her about 2 years ago. Antonia became an expert at leaning into conflict across a business. So her personal brand became someone who wasn't just an observer of conflict, but someone who solved conflict, because she went in with curiosity and to understand and to get a resolution quickly. And that is a great gift if you can give that to people. It is a reputation or a personal brand booster. Every time you sit back and let bad behavior, poor performance, relationships between stakeholders fester, every time you can fix that, massive boost to your reputation and brand. And you will find that people will start to magnetically come to you to help them with their problems. And when that is happening, you know your brand is on target. If no one's ever coming to you for advice or counsel, something's missing, Chief. Something is missing. Now, quick model for you to think about. And it's this: am I likable? Am I reliable? Am I capable? This is how chiefs think. Am I a nice person to do business with? Or am I harsh and not nice to be around? Those days are really over. You can't be like that in the office anymore, real groucho, right? You've got to be good to work with. Am I capable? Can I do the job to a really good level, right? If you can't do the job to a high level, your reputation and your brand just plummets. People don't come to you. So look at yourself quite objectively and take maybe a bit of a harsher lens than normal. Ask yourself, are you performing a job at the best, at a top level? The third one is reliable. Let's just say you are really good at your job, but you go missing all the time, right? You don't turn up to meetings, you're really slow in replying, or sometimes the work is amazing, sometimes it's like average. That's the reliability piece. And if you think about that from a reputation and a brand perspective, you have to ask yourself, hey, am I wrapping all those up? Am I likable? Am I capable? Am I reliable for each person across this business to help build my personal brand? Okay, so that's a really important model that you can use to just quickly do an audit of your personal brand. The next one is this, remembering the importance, and we spoke about this a lot in our session on Prepare, Perform, Recover, Review, the high performance life cycle. That's also in the book. That meetings are the performance theatre of executives. Every time you turn up to a meeting, and I've seen been on so many Zoom calls even these days. People turn up, they're slovenly dressed, there's light behind them, you can't see them, it's terrible noise, you can see they're doodling, they're not paying attention. Chief, in that moment, if that is you, people are drawing conclusions and making up. Your brand is being built around that. You know what it's like when someone else does that to you. You're immediately thinking, wow, what's wrong? Why aren't they putting the energy into this? Why aren't they fully present? Why aren't they ready? Why aren't they honoring me and my time by being ready for this and being switched on? So meetings are the performance center executives. It is a huge place. It plays a massive part in you building a personal brand. So, all right, Chief, that is all the information and the kind of mindsets I've taken off CEOs for 15 years. And what I want you to do is think about that. Even ask yourself, and if you're really stuck, Chief, here's 2 or 3 things. Do the audit on, am I likable, reliable, and capable? 2, build yourself a really simple 360-degree feedback using SurveyMonkey. Just ask a few simple questions. Hey, what am I good at that you really appreciate? 2, what are 3 words that describe my personal brand around the business? And 3, hey, what is one thing I could do to really improve my performance and reputation? If you sent that around to about 10, 15 people in the business, I guarantee you would get some quality data to help you understand your reputation. And that would be a valuable exercise for you. All right, Chief, that is part 1 of how to think like a CEO and all about how to build your personal brand. I hope you find that helpful. Chief, let's go. As always, remember to stay epic.